Hi guys, welcome to day 474. I'm going to talk about a very touchy subject today, fighting depression. And, I'll tell you, today's 6-minute video from Tim Ferriss is going to be one of the most useful videos that you watch. So I highly recommend you watch that video. But I want to add to a couple more of the things that he talked about. Now, full disclosure, I was not a very good psychology student. Because when I was doing my rotation in med school, and I was doing my inpatient rotation and people were getting admitted for, suicide attempts. And you had your usual, you had some people who were psychotic, bipolar, manic, seeing stuff. But then you had your people who tried to commit suicide, tried to wreck their car, really mental health issues. And also addictions, believe it or not, pain pill and sleeping pill addictions. We had a lot of grandmothers who would get admitted because they were addicted to Xanax. And they ran out of their Xanax and they went a little bonkers for a couple of days. And we had a lot of ladies who tried to do self-harm because they were just sad about something, their situation or spouse or husband or whatever. And I was always like, why can't they just get over it? Tip number 1. That's probably one of the worst things you can say to someone who's going through a depressive episode. Just get over it. It's not very helpful. Oftentimes it'll trigger them. Oftentimes it'll make them want to throw a shoe at you or book at you or flip over the edge. So what I want to say is that in my 48 years of living, I have come to realize that when you're talking about major depressive disorders, this is not something that you can just get over, okay? You just can't flip a switch. For many years, in my childish mind, I thought you could, because I did. But that's not the experience, right? It's a lot like, now don't get triggered. Don't get triggered. It's a lot like the BLM movement, Black Lives Matter movement. You really can't understand it unless you're African or grew up very closely in that culture. I grew up African American. I grew up a poor immigrant kid in the poorest schools, poorest neighborhoods. I had lots of black brothers and sisters and lots of big black mamas. But even to that point, I still can't really I don't pretend like I completely get BLM. I get it, but and there are other things, being gay, today is a gay pride, this month is gay pride month. So anyway, you guys get the idea. Depression is like, unless you really suffered major episodes that required hospitalization, it's hard for that person to understand. Now, what I would tell you is tip number 2. In today's video, Tim Ferriss gives you 6 very practical things to do. 6 things to do. So tip number 2 is, I want you to think of these 6 tips that he gives you as medications. And he actually calls it a medication. So let's run over the 6 tips real quick. He talked about meditation, which, as y'all know, I really espouse, highly recommend it. And he gives this very practical, the Wake Up app by Sam Harris. I'm actually going to look that up because I've been off my meditation here lately and during the pandemic. So I want to get back on it. So I challenge you to up your meditation game or get re-engaged into it, just like I'm going to do here starting today, right after this broadcast. Meditation's number 1. He talks about cold showers or cold plunge, which Tony Robbins talks about a lot too. If you want to start your day, don't take a hot shower, take a cold shower, or you can take a deep freeze. One of my masterminds we did, we went into that cold tank. It's I think it's what did they use to dry ice or something that would drop the temperature to freezing, and you're naked, and then it's just a container, and you could feel it get colder and colder and colder. It's not water. It's not a plunge. I think it was. I'm so terrible at this cryo freeze. It made me feel like, wow, I was really cold in it, and then once I got out, I felt so relaxed. My aches were gone. I felt really mellow, and my aches and pains were gone for like 2 days. It was pretty crazy. So, cold shower, cold plunge, cryo freeze, that's fantastic. What else did he talk about? He talked about exercise, and he talked about his favorite exercises. He talked about yoga. He said blue lights during the summer. During the winter time. He says this Philips blue light that he puts on his desktop, especially for those who live in more northern climates where it's really dark and cold and gray during the winter time. And you know, I'm not talking about seasonal affective disorder. That's sad. That's where, which is probably the best anagram for any disease. But that's where, you know, during the cold wintry months, people get the blues, the wintertime blues, seasonal affective disorder. And the blue light would work great for it, but what he is saying is that it's a trigger for his manic depression, and so there's good science behind it. When I was in Illinois, I recommended it for patients, a blue light, and it really helped them. I noticed that it was very positive. So you can get them pretty cheaply, but he says all of this stuff is, you need to think of them like a medication. So just like you go see your doctor and you say, hey, I need my antidepressants refilled, or my Prozac or whatever, and so they give you a prescription for Prozac. Well, we need to do a better job of training these doctors and say, okay, you also need to do 10 minutes twice a day of meditation. Here's an app for it, and your insurance should pay for it, or it could be a free app or whatever. All right, take a cold shower, get out and walk, you know, and he talks about that as a tip, you know, walk an hour a day. And he said something that was really interesting. He says he listens to an interview podcast during the walk, because when he hears two people talking on the YouTube show or the podcast, that it mitigates the loneliness. So these are very useful tips for this. And remember, what he's saying is these things that he's doing is not a cure for depression. So tip number 3 is like, these are not cures for depression. This is maintenance stuff. Just like how you would take your Prozac, if you suffer from severe depression, these are great ways to maintain your level of peace, right? You need to think about, just like you take your car in for, you know, tune-ups and oil changes and, you know, tires inspection, fluids, you know, maintenance. These are things that you do to maintain, right? And a couple of things I would add, you know, is like exhilarating experiences, such as, you know, roller coaster rides. Say yes. You know, why did you have weight loss surgery? You've lost the weight. If there's an opportunity to go on a roller coaster ride, do it. You'll have the same level of change of oxytocin, and I've done videos on this before, in your brain when you do a roller coaster ride, which they've measured, and that you will take in your Prozac, you know, do some exertion. Walking by itself is good enough, but man, I'm gonna tell you, getting out in nature, hiking, seeing the land and the things, it's fantastic. All right, so these 6 tips and things I've talked about in the past, you need to start thinking of them as medications, as maintenance, as maintaining my good health, my good fitness. So I never really had trouble with depression or anxiety or any of that sort of stuff. The closest I came to, and I've told this story before, was my sophomore year in college. We had moved off campus, and there were, 15 of us in 3 different apartments in the same complex, and 5 of us per 3-bedroom apartment. And in February of my sophomore year, over a series of stupid events where like people forgot or didn't invite me to a dinner or a party, and I suddenly felt like no one liked me, nobody wanted to be around me, I wasn't interested in school, which is weird because I had my sophomore year, I did really well that fall. I was on the dean's list, and I started that semester with A's in all my science classes on the exams, so I was off to a great start. And then just something just like flipped, and I felt like no one wanted me to be around, and I started. The best I can describe it is moping. I was kind of like just down on myself. And so what did I do, man? I laid on the couch for 2 weeks, and I watched The Godfather. My roommate had gotten the cassettes. No, I think we had DVDs by this point of The Godfather, all 3 of them. And I just sat there and I watched all 3 movies over and over and over and over again. Got up to eat a little bit of food. I think I might have showered. I don't think I even showered those 2 weeks. And my roommates would come in and they're like, "You're still on the couch, man?" I'm like, "Dude, yeah." To this day, I can still quote The Godfather. Yeah, it's just like permanently like on my brain. All three movies. And then one day, after about 2 weeks, I just realized I was lonely and I missed my dad and I missed his cooking. And so I called him on the phone. And there are these 2 very traditional Vietnamese dishes. One's called canh chua, that's Vietnamese sour soup. It's not hot and sour soup like Chinese food. It's Vietnamese sour soup, and this fish in a brown sauce that's called gak ho. And I called him. I said, "Daddy, how do you make this?" And I'd never cooked before. How do you make these 2 dishes? And my dad always cooked. He never cooked by recipe. He just knows how to. He goes, "You put a little this in it, a little that in it, a little this." I said, "Okay, I'm gonna try it." Well, I butchered the soup. I put way too much vinegar. I had to dump it all out. But the fish in the brown sauce was edible. And I said, "Hey, I can do this." And the next day, I made the same dishes again, and I made the soup edible. And that's what started me cooking. But I was like, I have to go buy groceries. Well, I better go brush my teeth. I better put on some clothes. And I went and got groceries, and it was that shower, it was that getting out process. That's what made me kind of like I was over it. I was done. And that took me down the culinary hole of enjoying how to cook. So what I can tell you is, if you're having a more than just the blues episode, but not quite like a major depressive episode, but you're a little bit more than just sad, but you're not quite like fucked up, the next tip I would tell you is what I have seen and found and done in patients that works is you just need to do something. You need to get out of bed. I know it's hard. Get out of bed and then do one of these things. Take a cold fucking shower, sit and meditate, get outdoors, get some sunshine, go for an hour walk, listen to a podcast, listen to some David Goggins, move your body, make yourself get up and dance, jump around, jump up and down. You could do affirmations, etc. And then once you get your energy level beyond that, sad state, then you got to really maintain it with these tips that we talked about today. Okay? Exercise, activity, getting around people. That really, really works. So let's talk about those episodes where, man, it is bad. Like it's beyond that, Dr. V. I'm in a very dark place, Dr. V. Um, the things that seem to work for that is, you need to call your healthcare expert. You need to call your counselor. You need to call your therapist. You need to make sure your meds are on point. You need to make sure, it's kind of late when you're in the middle of it, but you need to have some sort of support network around you in place, and the people who love you, who will check in on you, you need to have that in place. Like, before you do anything bad, call me. Not me, but have someone that you're going to call and talk to and understand, But at some point there is, and this is where I want y'all to comment, right? Like, what has worked for you? What has really helped you? Did you just have to, as we talked about, like, you just have to sit with it for a little bit. You have to sit with your sadness. Thich Nhat Hanh says this all the time. He says, bad things happen in life, and suffering is a part of life. And if I am gentle, if I'm gentle with my suffering, if I hold it very, very softly, I can nurture it, and I can take care of it. Like I can sit with my suffering, and I can sit with my depression. I can sit with my sadness, and it's not me, right? But it's a state that I am in. It's this condition that I am in, but it's not me. This is not the real me. So what's helped you during these really, really bad times? What have you done that's really worked? Now, not knowing it, I was, by watching The Godfather for 2 weeks, I was just sitting with my self-loathing, if that makes sense. I was not going to do anything bad to myself. I wasn't going to commit self-harm. I was just, I wouldn't say I was mind-numbing. I would say I was just riding out the storm. Which takes me to my next tip, and we're almost done, which is, when I was looking at Kadampa meditation, and I was going to the Kadampa Center, and it's a branch of Buddhism, and the resident nun there, I was talking to her, and I was talking about, dealing with patients with depression and stuff. And she said, sadness and depression is like a cloudy sky. And I said, what do you mean, like a cloudy sky? And she says, the sun is shining, but you just can't see it because of the clouds. And the clouds, if you will just sit there long enough, the clouds will drift away and the sun will shine again. And so if you can just sit with this depression for a little bit, don't do anything. Erica's in New Mexico because one of her childhood friends and her last serious relationship before me, like, they both committed suicide. One shot himself, one hanged himself. And so the nun was saying, if you can just watch the clouds, don't chase after them, don't hold them. It's like your thoughts, it's like your depression. Like, no one likes me, no one loves me, I don't want to do anything, I'm a piece of shit. Is this all there is to life? If you just sit with those thoughts, don't chase them. Don't follow, like, oh, you're a piece of shit, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't have done this, I should have done that instead. Like, don't go down that rabbit hole. Just acknowledge the thought like you acknowledge the clouds, and let the thoughts pass like the clouds, and eventually you'll see the sun. And you'll see the opening, the opportunity. And just like I saw the opportunity, and I got off the couch and I called my dad. And he was my rock, and I called him. I was like, I miss this food. How do I eat this food? And how do I cook this? So I had enough time where the clouds passed and a large enough window where I finally did something. I took action, right? And then the nun says something that was kind of funny. She says, you have these cloudy days. I was like, yeah. And you have these bad thoughts. I said, yeah. And she goes, the funny thing about it all is the sun was shining the whole time. The sun is shining the whole time. It's just that the person who's going through that episode, they just can't see it. They are just so dark in the fog and the clouds. And that's why when you say, just get over it, just snap, just turn on the switch, like they can't. You have to think about it like if it's a cloudy day, that might be like a sad episode, but like you have to think about it like a dark, dark storm. Last night, my daughter and I were swimming in the pool, and we made spring rolls, like we roll our own spring rolls and stuff, and we were gonna eat outside, and out of nowhere, the clouds came and the skies fell, and it rained sideways, and it blew my chicken coop open, and my chickens were like, and I looked at Kizzy and I was like, I guess we're not sitting outside, huh, babe? She's like, this storm came out of nowhere. So sometimes it's like that. Sometimes your depression is like, whoa, that is bad. It came out of nowhere. So the first thing people have to realize is like, you just can't get over it. You just can't throw a switch. So one of the things you can do as a support person is just to sit with them. Just talk them through that suffering. Instead of saying, you need to clean up your act. You need to go take a shower. You need to go to rehab. You need to, like, dude, they don't. No, in that moment, you just need to keep them safe. You just need to keep them from self-harming. And if that means you got to watch them 24/7, if that means you got to get rid of all the sharp objects, if that means you got to call the mental health hotline, that's what you need to do. Isn't that beautiful? The sun was shining the whole time. The sun was shining the whole time. Which takes me to the last tip. A lot of times, well, before I do that, I want to, Tim Ferriss, who gives this tip today, he almost killed himself in college. He almost committed suicide. He was this close. He actually had a plan, and by an act of God, there was an intervention that saved his life, and he's gone on to write and become a New York Times bestseller, made a lot of money, that sort of stuff. The 4-Hour Workweek is a book that really changed my life. The 4-Hour Workweek. I highly recommend you read it. So, and then we talked about this other video where it was that Vietnamese lady who lived in Germany, and she says she has depressive episodes, and she said, my depression is like an old familiar friend. And people say, why don't you just get over it? And she says, well, because depression is not just in the basement, but it's you're locked in the basement, and you're behind thousands of doors. See, it's not like you open one door and you walk through the light and suddenly you're not depressed anymore. She said, it's thousands of doors. So if you open one door, you're like, motherfucker, there's another door. I can't see past this. So you open another door, you open up another door. And it's thousands of doors. And then she says, not only that, but it's like an old familiar friend. It's like I'm in this depressive state, but it's not so bad, because I'm familiar with it. I know it. And I know if I can just have enough time, something will happen, right? And I have to I have to get through these doors, and then I can emerge. And what I hope to say is that, like, you um, you get to a point where you can maintain your mental state with these tips today. You know, the exercise and the walking and the meditation and the gratitude and the support network and the laughter and the roller coaster rides, right? But the last tip I want to tell you is this. Like, people say, I am depressed, I have anxiety, I am sad. And I want you to say, if you have to think about it this way, you know, we talk about the orb talk. Like, no, you're not. You are not depression. You have depression. You are not sadness. You are currently sad, right? It's like, you're not anger. You just feel angry. You are not happiness. You just feel happiness. And so it's an orb talk follow-up where you kind of have to try to coerce gently as much as possible. Just kind of push your orb back to the realm of the living. And I'm not even going to say happiness or joy. I mean, it's too big of a jump. Give an amen if you understand what I'm saying. It's too big of a jump to go from I'm majorly depressed to I'm fucking happy, look at me, hee, faking it. No, you can't do that. That's not real. And even if you tried it, it wouldn't work. Who understands what I'm saying? Give me an amen. You can't go from I'm majorly depressed to look at me, I'm all happy. Because that's like fake 101. You'll know. Your body won't believe it. So what you have to do is you have to like gently sit and nourish your depression and your anxiety and just try to coerce it slowly, open the door slowly, try something really slowly. And so the last tip is that I want you to understand that you're not depression. You know, that's not who you are. You are the sunshine. You are the sun. You're not the clouds. We want to think we're the clouds. No, you're not the clouds. You are brilliance. You are meant to shine. And everything in the world depends on the sunshine. The flowers, the trees, the plants, the animals. We need to have the sunshine. You are that sunshine. You are the sunshine of your world, right? So this month we're talking about stepping into your power. Stepping into the power is realizing that you are not depression. You are not sadness. You are not loneliness. You are the sun. You are powerful. And that's your true state. That's your true nature. Okay? And that's what you have to sit with and understand. All right? I love you guys. Have an amazing day. I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.